Chapter 1. The Cold Room. Orren Keld sang for supper, because the room had no coin left to give him. The low beam had been built for fishermen with broad shoulders, and no patience for ducking, and Orren had struck his head on the same blackened rafter twice before anyone asked for a song. He had pretended the second time was a bow. That got a laugh from the west table, thin but real, and the laugh mattered because the stew pot near the hearth had more water in it than bone. He stood on an overturned crate beside the fire. One plank of it sagged under his left heel. He had learned where to put his weight after the first verse. "Not that one," Torv called from the bench nearest the door. His right hand was wrapped in cloth so old it had gone grey at the knuckles. "Sing the prince with the donkey." "The prince is a sorrowful creature," Orren said. "The donkey, the prince." A few men laughed. One woman did not, but she hid her mouth behind her cup, as if laughter was something she could save for later. The room had the smell of wet wool, old smoke, boiled turnip, and the sea that had followed every man inside on his boots. Nets hung from pegs along the back wall. One still had ice in its knots. A little boy slept under the trestle table, with one hand closed around a spoon he had already licked clean. His mother kept nudging him farther under with her heel whenever someone stepped too near. Orren touched 2 fingers to his throat, not because he needed to, but because the gesture made people look up. They did, even the ones who pretended they had not come to hear him. Even the old woman by the cracked shutter who said every week that music gave her headaches, and every week chose the same stool. Even Mara behind the counter, who was scraping the sides of the stew pot with such care that a stranger might have thought there was something worth finding there. Orren waited until the room had settled into wanting. That was the part he liked best. Not the applause, not the free bowl if Mara felt generous, not Torv trying to pay him with buttons and fishhooks, and once, insultingly, advice. It was the breath before, a room full of people still inside their own hurts, their own hunger, their own wet sleeves and unpaid accounts, and then his voice entering before any of them could stop it. He began low. Not the donkey song. Not yet. Something older first. A Skeldrun winter tune. The kind that had been sung before hearths, when there had still been enough wood to waste on singing after supper. He changed the words, because the old ones praised a harvest no one in the room remembered, and there was cruelty in making hungry people listen to fat ghosts. So he sang of boots steaming by a fire, of a woman hiding the last good onion and pretending she had forgotten it, of a fisherman who swore the sea feared him, though everyone knew the sea had no reason to fear a man who screamed at eels. A laugh broke from the east table, then another. Orren lifted the tune before the laughter could die embarrassed. By the second verse, the low beam had begun to breathe with him. It always happened, if he found the right place to put the first note. Shoulders lowered, cups paused halfway to mouths. Mara forgot the ladle in her hand until the broth dripped onto her wrist and made her hiss. The boy under the table opened both eyes. Orren felt the room lean. He did not think about it as anything strange. Rooms leaned when a singer gave them reason. People breathed together when they wanted the same thing for a little while. And if old Torv's wrapped fingers unclenched, and if the crying baby by the hearth went quiet when Orren softened the third line, that was only because the song had found them where they were sore. A singer had to be useful somehow. The door opened in the middle of his 4th verse. Cold came in first, then rain, hard and silver in the gap. Then Evara Soln shouldered her way through with a basket on one hip and her scarf drawn tight beneath her chin. Orren did not miss the note. He was proud of that later. He did, however, change the next word without meaning to. The rhyme went crooked. Torv noticed and snorted into his cup. Evara stamped the mud from her boots onto the mat that had given up being a mat years ago. Her hair had come loose from its knot, pale strands stuck dark against her cheek. She did not look toward Orren. She went to Mara with the basket, lifted the cloth, and showed her something inside. Mended cuffs, maybe, or turnip peels. All the buttons Mara's boys lost faster than shirts could keep them. Evara was always carrying things that belonged somewhere else. Orren sang louder. That was a mistake. He knew it as soon as Evara's mouth tightened. He brought the song back down, let it circle the room instead of reaching for her by the door. He gave Torv the donkey, after all. Not the whole song. Just enough of the foolish prince slipping in the road muck to make the old man bark a laugh that turned into a cough. Evara's hand moved to Mara's wrist. Orren watched it from the corner of his eye. Mara's face had gone pinched. Evara leaned closer and said something Orren could not hear. Mara shook her head once. Evara took something from the basket anyway and set it on the counter. Small, wrapped in cloth. Food, maybe. Too small to be food. Too carefully wrapped to be nothing. Then Evara turned at last. Not fully. Just enough. Her eyes found him across the room. Orren's fingers tightened at his side. He did not have an instrument tonight. His little six-string had cracked in the last freeze, and he had not yet found glue worth trusting. It left his hands useless while he sang. He hated that. Hands gave a man something to do with wanting. Evara did not smile. She listened. That was worse. Anyone could smile. Half the room smiled because he made them. Evara listened like she was weighing the bones of the song and deciding whether any meat remained. Orren finished the verse for her. He wished he had not, as soon as he knew he was doing it. The room heard a tavern joke. Evara would hear the turn in it. The bit he had written after seeing her 3 days ago, with her sleeves rolled to the elbow, breaking ice out of the trough with a mallet, because her father's hands had been too drunk by noon to hold one. He had made it pretty. That was another mistake. Evara looked away first. The song went on without him for a breath. Orren caught it before it fell apart, smiling wide enough to make the west table think the stumble had been planned. "Ah," he said, spreading his hands. "You see, even the prince grows ashamed eventually." "The donkey had more sense," Torv said. "The donkey had 4 legs. That is an unfair advantage in mud. Sing the verse where he loses his trousers." "Torv," Mara said, "there are children." The boy under the table raised his spoon. "I'm asleep." That did it. The room broke open. Not loudly, but enough. Enough that the wind outside seemed to press its face to the shutters and find no place to enter. Orren gave them the trousers verse. He made it worse than usual. By the time he finished, Mara had poured him a bowl. She had taken it from the lower part of the pot, where the broth stayed thicker if nobody stirred too honestly. A scrap of fish skin floated on top, silver as a coin and twice as useful. Payment. He bowed low, careful of the rafter this time. The clapping came in pieces, 2 fingers from Torv, a knuckle against wood from the mother by the hearth, because both her hands were full of child. Mara's ladle on the pot rim. Someone near the back whistled once, sharp and clean. Evara did not clap. She had gone to the side wall and was tying her basket closed. Orren took the bowl from Mara. "You honor me." "I fed you," Mara said. "Don't dress it up." "I was going to praise the fish. It died thin. Let it rest." He smiled and drank before she could change her mind. The broth burned his tongue. He did not care. Heat went down his throat and opened his chest a little. There was almost no salt in it. Salt had become something people talked about with the same tone they used for weddings and dead kings. He wiped his mouth on his sleeve and stepped off the crate. The room went back to itself around him. Benches scraped, cups lifted, a baby fussed. Hunger, delayed, returned to its seat. Orren crossed to Evara before courage could become performance. "You came for the good verse," he said. Evara pulled the knot tight on her basket cloth. "I came for Mara. Crueler than usual. Usual takes less effort." Her voice was low. It always was in public, as if she had learned that sound could travel home before she did. Orren leaned one shoulder against the wall beside her. The wood was damp through his shirt. "You heard it, though." "I heard several things. And one of them was Torv asking for trousers, a beloved local tradition, a tired one. You wounded me. You rhymed fire with desire again." He put his free hand to his chest. "Now you've wounded me. You'll keep putting the wound where the rhyme is." Orren laughed before he could stop himself. The laugh felt too large for the space between them, so he swallowed the rest and looked into his bowl. Evara's eyes flicked to it. He held it out. "There's fish. There's skin. That is where fish keeps its memory. Then you eat it. You need memory more than I do." He should have had a better answer. He usually did. With anyone else in the room, he could have turned that into a joke about remembering which ladies had promised him kisses and which husbands had promised him bruises. With Evara, he only saw the crack in her lower lip and the raw red around her knuckles. "Your hands," he said. She tucked them under the basket. "Winter. It isn't winter yet." "Tell that to the pump. I could walk you back." "No, fast. Too fast." Torv shouted for another cup. Mara shouted that cups were not born in her hands. The room covered the silence for them, but not enough. Orren lowered his voice. "I wasn't asking to come in." "I know." "Then, no," she said again, softer this time. He hated the softness more. It made the refusal kind. And kindness gave him nothing to push against. She glanced toward the door, then toward the nearest window, though the oiled cloth over it showed only dark and a blurred streak of rain. That quick checking was old in her. Door, window, weather, witnesses. He had seen her do it in fields, in chapel, in the market line when the grain measure came up short. "Did he send you?" Orren asked. Her face closed. "Do not." "I only meant—" "I know what you meant." He did. That was the problem. They both did. Behind them, someone started humming the donkey chorus badly. Another voice joined worse. Orren should have turned, corrected the tune. Let the room have him again. Instead, he stood with his cooling bowl in hand and watched Evara pull her scarf closer to her throat. There were 3 places on the scarf where she had mended it with thread that did not match. He remembered the first tear, a nail by the mill door. She had cursed so sharply that even the miller's old dog had looked ashamed. He did not know the second. He wanted to know. The wanting embarrassed him. "You're thin," he said. "So are you. I am artistically thin. You are one missed supper from falling through a floorboard. Then stay under me and catch the song when I do." She looked at him then, properly, and for one foolish moment he thought he had won something. Not won. That was the wrong word. Reached. The firelight caught in her eyes. They were grey tonight, not blue, but the weather changed them. He had once told her that. She had told him to stop talking like a man trying to sell cheap cloth as silk. "Eat the stew, Orren." "I am." "Now. Before Mara remembers, she likes you less than pity. She adores me. She tolerates your noise because it brings drinkers. That is almost adoration. It is bookkeeping. There is romance in ledgers. There is hunger in ledgers." Evara's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Romance is what men call the arithmetic when someone else does it." He wanted to keep her there. The want rose in him so quickly he almost sang at it. Not a song with words, just a little thread of sound, the kind that could make someone pause with their hand on a latch because they had remembered something unfinished. He caught himself before it left his throat. Evara saw. Of course she saw. Her fingers tightened on the basket handle. Shame heated his face. "I wasn't." "I know." Again that softness. Worse than anger. The door opened behind her, and the rain leaned in. 2 men entered with their shoulders hunched and their caps streaming. Evara stepped aside before they could brush against her. One of them smelled of fish, rot, and old rope. The other had a dark bruise beneath his eye, and kept smiling as if daring someone to mention it. The cold bit Orren's wet cuffs. Evara used the interruption to move. "Wait," he said. She did, but only because Mara called her name. Mara came from behind the counter with a small cloth parcel in one hand. She shoved it toward Evara. "Take it." Evara shook her head. "I brought that for you, and I'm giving half back. You have boys. You have a father." The sentence landed badly. Mara knew it at once. Her face changed. Evara's did not. "I have work," Evara said, and took the parcel because refusing would turn kindness into argument. Mara sniffed. "Tell him I watered the ale because the barrel was insulted by the company." Evara's mouth did the almost smile again. "He'll believe the barrel part." Orren watched her tuck the parcel into her basket. Her hands were quick, embarrassed by receiving, angry at needing, careful not to crush whatever was inside. He wanted to sing that too. He wanted to make a song of the way she took food, like an apology she had not earned and would not ask for again. Instead, he drank his broth. Evara turned back to him. "You'll be here tomorrow?" The question was too casual. He noticed because she did not ask casual questions unless something underneath them had teeth. "Where else would I be?" Her eyes moved over his face. "You talk to sailors. I talk to everyone. It's a curse. You ask about southern roads. The South has better weather. The South has roads. So I'm told. They may be a tavern rumor." Orren. He smiled because she had said his name, and he hated himself for needing it that much. "I'm here," he said. "For now." The words should not have hurt. There was nothing in them that was not true. "For now," he agreed. That seemed to disappoint her. Or maybe he wanted it to. Wanting was a poor witness. A shout rose near the back. Not angry. Surprised. Someone had thrown dice, and won something worth pretending was money. A cheer followed. Then groans, then Torv accusing half the table of cheating despite not being in the game. When Orren looked back to Evara, she had shifted toward the door. "Good night," she said. "That sounds final. That sounds like night. I could sing you out." No, a real no this time. Dry, quick, almost fond, but no. He bowed a little. Not the tavern bow. Smaller, just for her. She rolled her eyes, which meant she had received it. Then she stepped into the rain. The room kept going after she left. That was always the insult. Nothing in the world had the decency to stop when a person walked out carrying your attention with them. Orren stood with the half-empty bowl cooling between his hands. The door shut. A thread of her cold stayed in the room, or maybe he imagined that. "Another?" Torv called. "Something indecent." "You can't afford indecent," Mara said. "I paid with a hook." "You paid with a bent hook. Still caught your ear. Only because you keep flapping it." The low beam laughed again, smaller than before. Orren should have climbed back onto the crate. He should have sung the trousers verse, until Torv forgot the ache in his fingers, and Mara forgot to thin the pot again, and the boy under the table forgot to dream of food. He looked at the door. For a moment, his voice felt like something he had left outside with Evara. Then came the whistle from the back again. Sharp, clean, not Skeldrun at all. Orren turned. The man sat where the firelight thinned, and the smoke gathered beneath the rafters. He had chosen the darkest corner, but not like a man hiding. Like a man letting the room do unnecessary work. His coat was too fine for the low beam and too travelled to be courtly. Dark wool at the shoulders, deep green lining visible where one side had fallen open, silver thread dulled by salt. One hand rested on the table. The other was gloved and held close against his body. Men sat around him, but not with him. Sailors, Orren guessed, though not the usual sort who came through Skeldrun when the channels were still open. Their clothes had been repaired in too many colours. Their knives were better kept than their boots. One of them had a laugh stuck permanently in his mouth and dead caution in his eyes. The fine-coated man looked at Orren's bowl, then at the crate, then at Orren. His smile arrived late, after his eyes had finished. "My boy," he said in Skeldrun speech shaped by warmer coasts, "does this country always pay genius in fish-skin?" The room quieted badly, not all at once, in patches. Men noticed other men noticing. Mara stopped wiping the counter. Torv lowered his cup. Orren felt the whole room ask him what sort of man he intended to be. He lifted the bowl and drank the last of the broth. Slowly, the fish skin slid against his teeth and went down hard. Then he smiled. "Only on generous nights," Orren said. "On poor ones, they make me sing for the bones."
Rain on the sill, salt in the flame. When the door goes quiet and the room lets go, lay the last word gently where the dark runs slow.
There is still a road under ash, under rain. There is still a voice trying not to break. Carry the song through the dark and the foam. Carry the name when the cold calls home. Leave one small light where the lost can remain. I will find you by listening. You will know me by name.
Rain on the sill,
Salt in the flame. The door goes quiet. Carry